I think for putting it like this, I think the service aspect of products and technologies are going to be more important for the future, especially services like eco-social, innovative services. So I think we're tending to focus less on products and more on complex social, ecologically focused services.
I mean, there are some massive challenges around energy, around transport, which are being addressed to a certain extent. The technologies are kind of there, and there's a lot of ideas in place. We often look at the built environment, and we know essentially what we need to do. We're just not actually doing it particularly well. But we have a whole range of issues around lifestyles and consumerism, which gives us enormous challenges. And I think this is one of the areas we're going to need to look a lot more at in the future. A lot of the kind of the technical focus that we've had in the past, that needs to continue and to be developed further and to be mainstreamed, and we need to get better at it. But a lot of the answers are kind of there. But the answers on the consumerist side aren't. The lifestyle issues aren't being addressed as they need to be. So looking at things like, you know, how we move away from an economy which is based around short lifespans, around short fashions, in which we're generating vast amounts of wastage, huge amounts of resource use, huge amounts of energy use, for, at the end of the day, what benefit are we actually getting out of it other than staying as part of this kind of the consumer race? So we need to start looking at how can our economies work without senseless consumerism. How do we develop products which actually have a value after 5 years, after 10 years, that we still want, that don't become obsolete after 6 months or break after 12. So there's massive challenges in there. And then we also then get to things like the very basic needs. I mean, we've already talked about housing, energy, transport, things like that, but also the food we eat. How do we take the next steps with regard to eating sustainably? What does that mean for us in Europe? And what does it mean in a global perspective? And what about there's a huge range of issues around the ethical dimensions, as well as the organic farming and regionalising economies and all of those kind of things. So there's lots of aspects around that which, again, we need new thinking, and we need to start moving a lot faster, because again the impacts are enormous. The environmental impacts are huge. We see the energy. You know, we're putting 10 times more energy into our food than we get out of it. It's absolutely crazy. So how do we start relating to that? And there's a huge need for innovation in there, for identifying ways of moving forward and creating sort of new solutions and new economies. We need to rethink the way the economies are working to be able to tackle some of these issues. And you know, sitting in the middle of one of the biggest financial crises for a long time, it's a great opportunity to actually start questioning some of the kind of the core values of what we've been operating under, and looking at what new values we could have in the future to build the new sustainable economy. So this is a wonderful opportunity to start raising some of these kind of the broader issues, if you like.
Well, in the European Environment Agency, where I work, we've done a study using environmental accounts, and from this study we're actually showing that the areas of food, housing and mobility are the areas that cause the largest environmental impacts. So that's the impacts coming from our consumption in Europe, and the impacts from production, transportation, etc. in other regions of the world. So therefore there's a need to focus on those areas. What we also see actually is that the majority of the environmental pressures are no longer coming from production in Europe, but coming from production in other regions of the world. So there's actually a need to focus on innovation, not only in Europe, but even more in other regions of the world. So in Europe, we need to focus very much on our consumption, how to change that, and then at the same time focusing on the innovation and using the innovation in other regions of the world.
The major thing is going to be dealing with an economy that's based on ever more consumption, really, and we need to consume things in order to keep the engine of the economy running, and actually making that work with sustainability, which sort of urges us not to consume, or rather to keep the design chair for future generations, and making those things go together is, I think, is going to be the big challenge. And of course, like during this conference, we talked about the service economy and how that might be part of the solution instead of buying products that use up the environment and buy services, but making that actually be a motor of the economy, I think, is going to be the big challenge. Could going to the theatre really be the thing that drives the economy of the future? I think that's the major issue, really, making that all come together.
Well, definitely there is the subject of sustainable entrepreneurship. And I see that entrepreneurs, individuals, passionate people that they want to create an impact are the ones that are contributing with measured sustainable innovations. For instance, in the Netherlands, we have the Sustainable Dance Club. We are seeing that the solutions that are working in the market are those solutions that add value, both from an environmental perspective but also from a business perspective. The Sustainable Dance Club is an initiative from NVU. It started some 3 years ago, and today is a running company. We are offering services to clubs that they want to be more green and more sustainable. Amongst the services, there is a collection of some 40 solutions to make the club greener, and the most known is the sustainable dance floor. We designed this dance floor that generates energy as people is dancing during the night. If we look at different areas, energy is an area which is going to become very relevant. It's already right now in the coming years, and probably personal mobility is also going to be pretty important.
I think we've got at a unique moment in time when we can engage with the public about what they want to see as sustainable products, because in the past they've been presented with a fait accompli, and I think at the moment we're in a position where they're actually engaging with the green agenda to the point where we can actually ask them what do they think we should be doing and where we should be going. We don't lack the technologies and the processes to do this stuff. We lack the vision to actually implement it in the marketplace. And the only way you're going to do that successfully is if you engage with the people who are going to buy these things. You know, you don't actually really sell motor cars because people need motor cars. They buy motor cars because they like the look of what they're buying. And we need to get that sort of thing across with the emerging technologies that are out there. There's a lot of rubbish talked about the nightmare scenarios of things like nanotechnology and biotech. And now I think we have got an opportunity to engage with people to actually get them to understand what we need to do to start the real planet-saving issues.